Hi, my name is Selena, and I'm here to do part 2 of my top 10 books for 2014. So I did a previous video, and I will try to link it down below, of the books that I rated from 10 to 6, and I'm going to do 5 to 1. So coming in at number 5 is Wiki History by Desmond Warzel. I believe that's how you pronounce his name. It's a very short read. You can read it in like an hour. It's a blog. It's fictionalized, but it's a blog with people writing who are members of a time travel society. And the blogs that we get to read are people discussing going back to kill Hitler, and the people who are in charge of this time travel society keep trying to stop time travelers from going back to kill Hitler, because if you go back and kill Hitler, it has huger ramifications than just getting rid of someone who was evil and maniacal. So it's just a really funny kind of story. It's along the lines of like an epistolary novel, so you're just reading the dialogue. There's no narration of the events that take place. It's just the dialogue that these people have on the blog post. And I gave it 4 stars, and on Goodreads it averages about 4.2 stars. Very good read. Again, you can read it in about an hour. It's very, very short, but a very good read. And Goodreads counts it as a read, so take it. Number 4 is the Saga series. I'm gonna just count 1 through 3 all as one read, and I rated each one. Let's see, I rated number 1 5, number 2 5, number 3 4, and they range between like 4.3, 4.5 on Goodreads. It's the story of 2 people, Marcos and Alana, and they are lovers, but they come from 2 different planets, and these 2 different planets are warring. And Marco is a prisoner of war, and he was supposed to be watched over by Alana, but they fall in love, and then the story kind of happens from there. They're trying to just find a little place where they can have a family and raise their child, but the powers that be on each of their planets don't want that to happen. They need, for some reason, for this war to continue and for people to not like the others. So it's kind of like Romeo and Juliet meets Star Wars sort of story, but it's very well written. And the author is Brian K. Vaughan, and the artist is Fiona Staple, I believe. Very good read. So that came in as my number 4. Number 3 on my list, let me look at my list. 3 Parts Dead by Max Gladwell. So here is the book. I originally picked this up at a library book sale because this is an African American or person of color necromancer, and I just never really seen a sci-fi necromancer book thing like this other than like Octavia Butler or something like that, especially where you have the protagonist on the cover. So that's what originally got me into this book, but it became one of my favorite reads of 2014. It takes the financial crisis that happened in around 2008 and allegorizes it in this sci-fi paranormal retelling. And so our main character went to a school that she was actually kicked out of, and then being kicked out of that school, she's trying to find work, but then is drafted into kind of like a legal firm, but this legal firm does magic and necromancy to try to raise a dead god. And so they're trying to figure out, one, who killed the god, what happened, like why is the god all of a sudden dead when he wasn't supposed to be, and then bring him back and save a culture from collapse. The culture is dependent on this god. And yeah, it's a really good allegory of the financial crisis that we found ourselves in 2008, but just really well told, and the magic system in here, while not original, are written very well and described and written very beautifully. I loved Max Gladwell's writing. This was one of the books that I kept wanting to read, and my poor roommate that I was living with in Honduras, I would tell her about the book and talk about the book, and she'd never read it, and I couldn't stop talking about it or waiting to get back into the story. So very good read. And number 2 is Attachments by Rainbow Rowell. That's the second Rainbow Rowell book that I've read, and I loved it. I gave it 5 stars. I also gave 3 Parts Dead 5 stars as well. And it's the story of a guy who works in the security department at a newspaper, but he starts to read the emails of 2 women because they're coming up with like red flag terms in the email, so he has to read through them for like security reasons, but they're not talking about anything important or harmful, but he starts to get into their lives and get into their stories, and he starts to fall in love with one of the characters, and it's, you know, it's a rom-com, but it was really well written. Rainbow Rowell always writes characters that I feel like I can relate to, and that I feel like I know. So very good read for Rainbow Rowell. Now I have to read Landlines. That's the next book that I'm hoping to read of hers. And my number 1 pick for 2014 is Brandon Sanderson's Mistborn. The first one, was it The Final Empire? Yeah. I rated this 5 stars, and I have them both 2 times on my list, and I thoroughly enjoy Mistborn. Just great story, and I want to talk about it, but I don't want to ruin it. I believe it's like the book explosion book read. So if you haven't read it, it's going to be talked about a lot on BookTube. It's already been talked about a lot. I think Brandon Sanderson is like one of those authors that a lot of people have started to discover in 2014, and there's a reason for that, because he is awesome. He's just a great storyteller. So this story takes place in another world, and the magic system is really awesome. It's based on metals and pulling and pushing, like magnetic pulling and pushing off of metals. And yeah, I want to talk about it, but I'm just scared I'm going to give things away, so I'm not going to talk about it. But you should read it. And yeah, that was my number 1 pick. So thanks for watching, and I'm glad to be back on BookTube. Leave comments down below if you want to talk about any of the books that I've mentioned in this video or in the previous video. Bye!